How's everybody's conference so far? Good? Yeah, good. It's nice that we get to travel around the world and hang out with our friends, huh? So yeah, biz dev and crypto. Obviously, this is kind of becoming more and more important. Last year was a little bit tough, as some of you may remember. Prices have been down a little bit, and as part of that, we've all had to get a little bit smarter, get a little bit better. The crypto space is, traditionally kind of weird. We've had a lot of wacky people in and out telling, various stories, like this guy, Craig Wright, and then this is a great lie as well. Might be a little too close to home for some of you, depending on when you got involved. Mt. Gox, it's awkward. And then this one is actually, we have new lies now that we've gotten past that initial phase. Everyone in 2017, ICOs are not a security. We don't need to worry about this. Well, turns out we do. And then, still, we have additional lies that we keep telling ourselves. Even now, people use my technology, even if the UX is bad. Not true. Just not true. But this, these are all sort of minor lies. And there's another lie that I have been thinking about a lot over the last few months. And it's a lie, it's a little bit confusing because it's on its face, it doesn't actually really look like a lie. It doesn't sound that bad. It doesn't sound like anything we can't overcome. But really, it's the kind of lie that we all tell ourselves, and it is holding us back from achieving our real potential. And that lie is this: if you build it, they will come. Has anyone heard this? Has anyone heard this meme out there in the crypto sphere? I think we all have, right? If I build this beautiful set of smart contracts, of course I'm going to have users. Everyone's going to love it. I don't need to do anything. I've built all these gorgeous token economic incentives. It's just not true. And we've seen that time and time again, right? How many projects have raised all of this money and built fantastic technology and, hasn't really taken off? DApp usership is, a little bit anemic, to say the least. And, that's on us. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today is, okay, how do we, setting this lie aside, let's just call a spade a spade. If you build it, they will not come unless you tell them about it and get them in here. So how can we actually get them in here and bring users into the space? Well, a lot of that is through the business development function. So we'll go over some practical advice for setting up a biz dev team, creating realistic growth strategies, how to talk to about your project to the real world without scaring them, crucially, and how to move your partnerships forward. So with that, some housekeeping items. Setting up Schap. The first, this is so important. Get a CRM. CRM software, contact resource management. Few examples here. Basically, it just allows you to track all of your contacts, all of your activities, so that anyone in your organization could log in and see what the status of a partnership is. Helps you remember everyone that you're speaking to. I don't know about you guys, but I speak to several dozen new people per week, so my memory's not great. Not that good anyway. This might sound obvious, but use the CRM. Lots of people get CRMs and then just sort of don't really use them, which I don't understand. It's a lot of work to set them up. Why not use it? Third, develop a plan for moving things through the pipeline. So this doesn't need to be a super intensive plan, but you need to be able to track what the status is of every deal that you're working on and have a method for doing that so you can kind of evaluate your progress and sort of make plans around your BD goals. And then finally, set high but achievable goals tied to compensation. So for business development people, if you have any working on your project, the best way to incentivize them and make sure that everybody is moving in the same direction is to basically make sure that their compensation is tied to whatever goals that you'd like them to achieve at that time. So just to give you guys an example of this, can everyone see this okay? Yeah? Okay, cool. So this is just a screenshot from our CRM, and you can see it's a very simple flow. On hold means, we're waiting for their DApp to be finished, or we've spoken and they want to wait for, however long. Obviously, tentative commitment, they've committed. And then once they've said yes and we've made a plan, they either go through the integration, so the marketing team, or the collateral integration progress, and then won, unqualified, or lost. So this is just a very simple flow to help you track kind of where you are, and then anyone can log in to your CRM and see what the status is of the pipeline. Okay, now a few words on strategy. So one of the things that I see a lot of is projects that want to be everything to everybody. Lots of BD people that are working on all kinds of different deals across all kinds of different verticals. And that works for a while. But ultimately, where you'll see your BD people being the most successful is if you have them have a few strategic focuses. And to really kind of dig deep on those, right? Instead of going a mile wide and an inch deep, to really get experienced in a certain vertical. For example, at MakerDAO, we really want to focus on remittances. So one of our BD people really spends a lot of time digging into remittance companies. Personally, I have been focused really heavily on collateral lately. So bringing on new security tokens and getting them ready to prep for multi-collateral DAI launch. So which verticals do you actually want to pick? So you want to solve for usability, visibility, and scale. So usability, that means how they're actually going to interact with your DApp or your application. It needs to be something obvious and something that adds something to their business process. Visibility, if it's a big brand name company that's now using your technology, obviously that's great. And then scale, we want to be able to actually push this technology out to a broad organization, gain users, gain basically awareness of your project through these partnerships that you're creating. Then use a tiering system to help prioritize targets. And I'll give an example of that here in a minute. But the way that we think about it is, obviously there are some partnerships that are a little bit more high value than others, right? And you need to give your BD team a way to focus their energy on really high value targets, and so they're not just spending a bunch of time, getting shitcoin listings on random exchanges. And then finally, adjust the goals and tiering system as needed using the feedback that your BD people are getting from prospects. And this is crucial. The way to think about your BD people, they're on the front lines. They're the ones that are talking to the market about who you are and what you do. They're the ones that are getting the first feedback and the most information, basically on what the market thinks. So you can use their insights to adjust your plan. Okay. So this is just a quick example, just so you guys can see how we do it. For every project, depending on what you're looking to do, things will be different, but we categorize in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, where Tier 1 may be, focused on DAI users and collateral providers, right, of a certain level. So, however many active users they have or however much deployable collateral they have. Tier 2 would be, any kind of strategic crypto relationships, et cetera. And then Tier 3 will be, smaller, earlier stage applications that are maybe integrating one or more of our projects or products. And so that's how we kind of are able to focus our attention and effort. Okay, so we talked about the big lie of crypto, but now we get to talk about the painful truth of crypto. And that is this. Nobody understands what you're talking about. This happens a lot. I talk to at least 10 new projects a week. And very often, and I'm pretty crypto woke. I've been doing this since 2013. And still, a few times a week, I will have someone explain their project to me for 5 to 10 minutes, and at the end of it, I still have no freaking clue what they do. That's not good, guys. We got to sort this one out. And the reason for that is because We like to use lots of lingo, and we're all very smart, and we love to talk about things in our own little language that we've all built together. But that's just not going to work. No one cares, right? FedEx doesn't care about bonding curves. So here's some examples of some that are good. So Golem is a global, open source, decentralized supercomputer that anyone can access. It's made up of the combined power of users' machines, from PCs to entire data centers. That explains what they do. That's a good, quick explanation. Unfortunately, you see many projects with things like this. Connect blockchain technology to the real world by providing comprehensive governance structure, robust economic models, advanced IoT integrations. What do they do? It's kind of crazy because VeChain's actually a fairly legit project with, decent partnerships and, they've got a good story to tell. And yet, you go to their website and this is, what is this? What is this? Why is it okay for crypto businesses to speak like this and not follow suit with the rest of the world and basically say what you mean to say? So this is something that we all need to work on. Here is a short list of words and phrases that you should never use on a first call with a prospect. The double spend problem. Byzantine fault tolerance. Has any of you ever used that on a call with a prospect? How does it go? It doesn't work. They don't care. They don't care about this. When you are talking to if you're thinking about buying Salesforce, the CRM, when you talk to their business development person, they're not explaining, all of the technological rails of how it works. They're showing you, hey, okay, you have this problem where you need to track some information. Here's how you do that. You do it quickly. You do it simply. If I hear the word bonding curve, if I never hear the word bonding curve again, it'll be too soon. And don't even get me started on on-chain governance. They don't want to know about that. Just keep it simple. So it gets confusing because a lot of people don't really know what to talk about on a call. If you're not, they think that what you're supposed to be doing on the first call is this, which is tell them what we do. That's okay. It's not a bad place to start, but it's not great. A much better place to start, and which is maybe not very intuitive, is this. Find out what they need. This is a huge difference. And it's not something that we are used to doing very much in this space, right? Because we're all very excited about the projects that we've created. But when you're actually going to have a conversation with, a Fortune 500 company, they are not as excited about your project as you are necessarily. They might be, casually interested in it. But the only way that you're going to keep them interested is if you can do this crucial step, which is to find out what they need. So the way to do that is to just basically figure out how we can help them. So your goal in the first interaction should be to find out what they're currently doing, what kind of business are they, do some research beforehand, what isn't working or could be improved. So if it's a supply chain finance company, how are things going with their cross-border payment solutions, right? Where are they getting stuck? Come up with some ideas before the call, have some thoughts in mind, but ultimately your goal is to ask these questions of them and get some answers. And then, of course, what are they hoping to achieve? So this, you might think you know the answer to this when you're getting on a first call, but I find all the time that what I think we're going to be able to do for someone isn't the main thing that they're interested in doing. For example, I'm working on a deal right now with a commodities firm out of Singapore, and they want to be able to collateralize their metals, warehouse metals, on the blockchain and borrow against them. I just assumed that they were interested in doing this to lower their interest rates. Well, in fact, that's of interest to them. Of course, everyone wants lower interest rates, but the main reason that they're interested in doing this is because they think that it can really help them save a whole lot of paper trail and a whole lot of time. And knowing that, I can sort of tailor the solution that we're building for them to them and make them much more likely to continue to engage and really invest in taking things forward. So once you have these answers, then you can discuss how your project can help them with that specific problem. Crucially, you need to be understood. And how do you do that? Practice describing your product to normies. Call your mom. call your grandmother, call your sister, call your college roommate, call whoever, and practice explaining what you do in 1 minute and see how people react. If it's not clear, if you can't get yourself to the point where you can explain to someone who has never heard of a Bitcoin, then you need to keep working. Second, don't try to boil the ocean. I kind of touched on this earlier, but a lot of projects have a lot of different nice and cool features, things that they can help with across a whole variety of issues, right? But really, that's just not realistic. Don't try to boil the ocean. Focus on a few key ideas for working together. Third, if there's any doubt that they've understood, reiterate. So blockchain has got all of this like cool hype around it, and it's complex. We're used to talking about these terms, but when you're talking to the CTO of a small to medium business or a larger enterprise operation, they might kind of get it, but be too embarrassed to admit that they don't really understand what you're talking about, and they'll kind of nod their head, and then, you'll be surprised because it sounded like this guy was really interested. Why didn't he take my call? The next time I called him, why hasn't he responded to my most recent email? You need to make sure that they understand, and the best way that I like to do that is to just I'll kind of ask a few questions to just get an assessment for me of, how much they get this. And then finally, and this one is so important, use their lingo to describe what you do. So we've come up with, in a lot of cases, a lot of just ways that we're talking about. A lot of us are technologists that are going to solve some technology problem for a business that we don't really have a lot of experience in, right? Whether it's banking, supply chain, finance, farming, whatever it is, if you're building a blockchain solution, the chances are high from what I've seen that you haven't actually worked in that industry before. So you need to get sharp on the lingo of that industry. For example, with Maker, we always say collateralization ratio, but that is very confusing to financial companies who always use the phrase loan to value or LTV. So find out what are the terms of art for the industry that you're trying to work with and stick to those. Okay. Get them thinking. This is a really important one. The best way to do this is to use real-world examples and analogies to help the prospect basically understand the possibilities. So before you actually get on the call, do some research about the business, come up with some ideas of ways you think that they can use the product, and be ready to give a real-world example of saying, okay, if you have some warehouse of metal, then we can help you tokenize it. We will then basically lock it up in a basically safety deposit box on chain, right? And then you're able to borrow against it. Take them through what a real example would look like. That way, hopefully, they will start to come up with ideas on their own. If you do this well, you'll have one thing that you may go into the call with, and then if you can really get their wheels turning and thinking about it, the next time you talk to them, they may say, hey, I was thinking about it last night, and I actually think there's another thing that we could do together. So this is sort of the goal, to have them understand so well that they're actually coming up with new ideas for how to move your partnership forward or further integrate with your suite of products. All right. Then, develop a plan. So don't be afraid to start small. This is a big one that I think a lot of projects kind of, that you get excited and it's we're gonna revolutionize your whole business and let's start using DAI in every single place in your whole company. Well, that's not really realistic. So go ahead and pick a project to work on together and build the relationship. You don't have to change an entire industry overnight. Pick something small, something manageable, something that everyone can agree to, and get started. The second one, and this one is crucial, is ask them to commit to something. So if it's in your partnership, if you're planning to do a partnership, ask them to commit to a deadline, or maybe we'll build out this side of the implementation and you build out this side, or maybe it's just sharing the costs of paying the developers to do this. I know it's a little scary to ask for money for some of these things, but even if it's just a nominal amount, just to ensure that everybody has skin in the game and everybody is going to be held accountable. And this one is important. This doesn't maybe probably make sense for every single deal, but for larger deals in particular, draft up a document that's basically outlining the scope of the project that you're going to work on and what's expected from both sides, any deadlines or timelines that you want to try to observe. That'll help everybody kind of, have a meeting of the minds and stay on track. They've agreed to partner. Hooray! This is very exciting. Okay, now what do you do? Sorry, I had a little too much fun with the animations. Okay, I'm going to start with the don'ts. You ready? Don't announce anything publicly until there's a working prototype or at least something real to announce. We see this all the time. How many things do we see on Twitter of like, oh, guys, we've got this great partnership. And, you look back and 6 months later, still nothing is out. It hurts your brand, particularly. If you're a good project, which I'm sure all of you are, then you don't really want to have your name on something until you know that it's finished and that it's good. Maker has done really well on this, right? I think we've been really protective of announcing things until there's a little bit more substantial something. Don't assume that they will hold up their end of the bargain. Follow up. That document that I said to get started, right? Set some deadlines in it and try to get them to keep to it. And then finally, don't wait until the last minute to loop in your technical or marketing teams to help. Give them plenty of lead time. These guys are busy, and oftentimes things are a little bit more complex than they might seem at first. So get your teams involved as early as possible. Okay, so now for some do's. Set timeline guidance and stick to it. I know I keep harping on this, but I cannot stress this one enough. If you ask people to do things and tell them that there's a deadline, they actually do want to comply with this. So you can help them do that by following up regularly. Bring in other team members to help as needed. For example, legal, that one kind of goes without saying. This one is also important. Use other dApps to help build the solution. For example, we're now partnered with UNICEF. You're able to donate to UNICEF in DAI, and we're partnering with, we're bringing in Request Network, essentially, for their donation collection form. Help them not just get involved with your solution, but also bring other dApps from the ecosystem that can make your app stand out and make it look a little bit easier. Stay organized, that's a given. And this is also really important. So start planting the seed of other deeper partnerships you could work on together as the first project comes to a close. So, for example, with UNICEF, they're now accepting DAI as a donation type, and that's great. But UNICEF does so much financial operations in so many interesting places in the world that have, weird currency situations and, underbanked populations. And so because we've got this, first kernel of partnership going, now I'm able to sort of expand my reach into the organization. And so ask for introductions to other teams. Say, I want to talk to your team that's doing, last mile aid in Syria, for example. And start kind of putting some more hooks in the water, so to speak, around the organization during the initial partnership. And then finally, help them get as much press, media, Twitter attention as possible once the partnership is announced. Make this easy. I would recommend every BD person to make some friends at CoinDesk and, the other big, publications out there, and really kind of help them get the word out. That helps you as well. So final thoughts. Don't be afraid to go whale chasing. This is one thing that we don't see a lot of. Every now and again we get some big partnership. Oh, IBM's doing something, or oh, FedEx is doing something. This is very exciting. Well, those conversations with huge companies like those have to start somewhere. So it doesn't matter. Go call them. These big companies are actually way more interested in this stuff than you might think. I don't know if you've noticed, but stock prices tend to climb quickly whenever a publicly traded company announces some blockchain integration initiative. So, they're definitely thinking about these things. Your success depends on your ability to listen, understand a problem, and propose a concise and coherent solution. Emphasis on concise and coherent. Be an educator, but lighten up on the jargon. A lot of what I do on the phone and in meetings is teaching people, right? Teaching people how they can use this technology, helping them get ideas about how they can move things forward in their own business by integrating some of these things. But, you know, it's also a little bit scary. So don't, just lighten up on the jargon. Just use plain English. And then finally, business development is on the front lines of the market. Use what you learn there to inform new strategies. If you think that, you know, you're going to be a product for one certain industry, and then you get in that industry and they say, you know, you're not really getting a lot of success, switch it up. Try something else. Don't you know, hold on too tightly to one thing just because that's what you put in your white paper. You can always, these things can often be used across a bunch of different places within one company or across different industries. So that is all for me. Follow me on Twitter. I'm occasionally funny, usually not, but yeah. And I think that's, I think I'm out of time here, but is there someone coming up next? Okay, cool. You ready? Thanks, guys.